subscribe.
Well, let us welcome our guests of honor tonight, who is joining us. He's joining us from Uganda. And let me tell you, you know what? It's very, very late in Uganda right now. Very, very late. And I'm going to try to call his name. I'm going to try to call his name, but it's Sherura. Oh, Lordy, I'm not going to try the rest of it. And he's coming to talk about the impact of colonized education on Black leaders. And tonight we want to welcome Mr. Strong with the pronunciation of his name. Welcome, Sherura, to the Marcia Week Show.
Thank you for having me, Monsieur.
Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yeah, you did. You did correctly. It's a Sherura.
Sherura. Sherura, you are a Pan-Africanist scholar, aren't you?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Yes, and you are in. You're right now in Uganda. What time is it in Uganda?
It's coming to 3 in the morning. I think it's 2:30 in the morning.
Oh my goodness, 2:30.
Yeah.
Oh no, it is just 7:25 here in in Barbados. And have you been to this side of the world? Have you been to the Caribbean before?
Not Barbados in particular, and not the Caribbeans, because is Jamaica part of the Caribbeans?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Been to Kingston once. I went through
wonderful.
Kingston.
Okay, yeah. Good. Well, you've got to come to Barbados. You know, we were introduced. Yeah, you know, we were introduced to you by Maxine McLean, and former Minister of Foreign Affairs, and she said, "Listen, there's a young man that I wanted to have on the show, so we have to give credit to Miss Maxine McLean for making a connection with you, Sherura, from Uganda." But tonight, we want to talk about colonial education and its impact on leaders, right? Or Black leaders.
Right.
Yes. So, yes, go right ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Sister Monsieur, and thank you for having me. I really do appreciate the opportunity that you have, granted me and all the people that are listening in. I say greetings to the people of Barbados, the family in Barbados, the family in the Caribbeans. And I got to tell you, there are a lot of people from the African continent watching right now, people from the US, people from Europe watching your show tonight. Now, I got to say, you're doing a great job for our people and for our society. We really appreciate you, and you're a brave soldier, and we need more like you kind. Keep up the fight and keep up the strength, keep up speaking for the people, mostly for the vulnerable. It's very important. We have to speak for the vulnerable people. When we talk about, education and how it has incapacitated our leaders.
Yes.
See, when we talk about education, they say a society is as good as its education. If you want to see the weaknesses in a society, you look at its education. The education of the Black man and the Black woman started from it was started by the people who enslaved us.
Yes.
And that education was not meant to make us better men and women. No, it was meant to make us, good servants of the master. And that was the whole intention. Even the church, where the church started schools, the missionaries, the intention was not to make us, equal to the white man. No, their intentions were to get an education that would make us serve the white man better, like carpenters and other casual jobs that we could do. So that was the whole education. That was the foundation. So as it went on, and when all our societies got what we call independence, most of the independence leaders didn't have time to go back and look at education and re-examine and put it back to the rightful way. Most of them had to continue because most of them were selected by the Europeans.
Yes.
And those who were not selected were murdered. People like Kwame Nkrumah, people like, you can have Malcolm X, you can have people like, so many people, people, some of them even had to be shot dead point blank, like Thomas Sankara, Sekou Toure. Now, these were revolutionary people who were saying, no, we need to ditch everything that was, associated with slavery.
Mm.
And see, a people, my sister, Messiah, people who were in bondage for more than 500 years, there's a psychological change that happens onto them that you can't realize. See, when you look at the Chinese, a kid
Mm-hmm.
in China is proud to be Chinese. The kid in China is brought up on the foundation of pride because this kid is educated, number one, in the Chinese language. The
Uh-huh.
kid has his name. Now, this is now the kid is being prepared to go out there and compete because capitalism is about competition. And when you compete, you must have a competitive advantage. How do you create a competitive advantage? By innovating based on your cultural foundation. Now, what happened to the black man who was held in bondage for 500 years is he started innovating from the foundation of the education system that was handed over to him. And that education system was from the foundation of the slave master. And even the education system was not to make him better. So you find that the kid in China, the kid in Japan, the kid in Germany grows up on the system of pride. This kid, it's easier for this kid to develop. So even the natural leader in China is way easier because the kid in China is patriotic.
Yeah.
Now, but now the kid in the black community is raised from a point of inferiority complex. This is very important, Monsieur. So this kid, because you see, post-independent, most of the leaders were handpicked by the slave master. So they
Mm.
had to be, towing the slave master's line of thought. So this leader, the modern leader, was a new slave master. So Malcolm X talked about these kind of people. He talked about them. If he said Uncle Tom, so most of them didn't have anything good for the black man. They despise their own people. We had the
Yes.
same problem here in Africa. So most of the leaders were European trained. They started from the UK, they started from the US, they started from Europe. So when they would come back, they would find they were not in touch. They were out of touch with the regular people. They would
Mm-hmm.
despise the regular people. They would look at them. You see, our leaders. Before I came on this show, I was reading on Barbados, and one of the things that I saw is that the billionaires in Barbados, most of them are white men. And you see, if you and this is not in Barbados alone, if you go on all black countries,
Mm-hmm.
the ones who have the money are not black. And in the country where I come from, the British name Uganda, the top billionaires are Indians.
Mm-hmm.
The neighboring Kenya, the top billionaires are Indians. And
Mm-hmm.
South Africa, the top billionaires, 70% in South Africa, no, 90% of land in South Africa is owned by 10% white. Now, the remaining 10% of the land is owned by the black South Africans. The economy is owned by white South Africans. So we have kept in the perpetual servitude and thanks to our education. So now going back to nurturing leadership,
Mm-hmm.
leader is nurtured from education.
Mm-hmm.
Now, education doesn't start in school, it starts from the society as we're preparing people, the kids from home. These kids have to come up with common values. But if
Mm-hmm.
you look at a black man right now, what values do we have? We have the values of the white man. But you see, the values of the white man have even failed the white man. The white man right now is getting extinct because he's becoming self centered and he's becoming greedy and he's dying out. So what values do we have, Monsieur? We don't have no values. If we follow there's a saying that a foolish fly follows a dead body in the grave. So we've been since we got out of slavery, we've been following the white man. The Arabs. Recently, there was an event. It was embarrassing. It was in Korea. There was a summit, Korea Africa. By a kind of magnetic force, England draws to it all that is good in the plantations. So this was in 1689. This was an agent of Barbados writing and saying that everything good from the plantations, that there's a magnetic force that pulls everything good to England. So if you look at our economic systems, all of them, they feed in the white man's land because the white man was smart. In 1944, these white people sat down and formed. There were 43 countries, and they formed the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank and the IMF. Now, these were to control the international monetary system that me and you subscribe to because we have the Visa cards, we have our money. If our money is not approved by IMF, it doesn't become money anyway. So what happened is that we who were slaves kept as slaves because we have subscribed to the system that is owned by the person who enslaved us. But even better, because it's even better, you see, if you practice that person's culture, you don't advance. You follow that person right in their footsteps. The shirt you buy has come from England. So how do you advance economically? The kettle you buy has come from the US. Anything from Barbados, you don't buy it. Anything from Africa is voodoo. Anything from Haiti is not standard. How did the Europeans develop standards? So where are we heading, Monsieur, if you to tell me? I know it's only one way. We follow the white men. And we can criticize the leaders. But if we're to criticize the leaders, Monsieur, let's look ourselves. Let's look at ourselves. What are we doing to change our societies? Because it starts with me and you. What are we doing? You're doing a great job because you put in a platform for us to interact. See, the Barbados is now linking with Africa right now as we speak. This is very important. So you've done your job. But what are the rest of us doing? The people who are saying that everyone has an excuse. They're saying lead us. No, the leaders is us, me and you. So we have to look at a way we can empower people to first of all believe in themselves. This is very important. The first human being was a black man, Monsieur. The first human being come on this planet was black. See, the universe doesn't make mistakes. It doesn't. Never life doesn't make mistakes. What is making mistakes is our mental capacity. The fact that we don't inspire people. There's people who came from slavery and became mental slaves. And they worshipped everything the white man does, everything. We do everything the white man does. And we don't go back to find our roots.
There's something that you said that he said that a lot of our leaders, because of how they were educated,
yes, I heard
they
that.
come back to us, so we go away to be educated, like myself, you got educated in the US or in the UK, wherever, you come back here, and he said we become out of touch with the people and with the culture. Can you just take a couple minutes, Sherura, and just break that down for us a little bit? Give us examples of that and break it down for us. Thank you.
I would say if black people went back to understand the people they come from, if they genuinely understood where they came from, they would understand life. And once human beings understand life, then they understand humility. And when you understand humility, you serve people. And you see, when you have humility, it radiates. You don't even have to do anything. See, what we're doing is in politics. Why I'm not a politician. I'm just a student of Pan Africanism, because I found the white man's politics is about competing for who is the better devil, who's the bad guy, who's a good guy, and this does not self it does not serve people. We should be competing to serve people. Serving people is a God-given purpose. So but if black people and if they really understood where they come from, because you see the people in the diaspora, the people in the Caribbean, the people in West Indies, they got disconnected from their roots. So it's very difficult for them to go back and connect the roots, and most especially the fact that our people globally, this is not only for the Caribbean, it's not only for Africa, it's not only for Europe. Globally, our people are the poorest, and we have imitated the white man for as long as we can, and we're still poor. And whatever we try to do, we're poor. And we have worshipped, we have, the gods, we have fasted, and we are poor. And the few of us who get the money, we run away from our people. And we're just going hide probably in the UK and London. Or in the US. So this is a challenge when you go to Pakistan, when you go to rural Afghanistan, when you see black people, when you go to Baghdad, and you see they are all poor. And it's not that these people are not intelligent. It's because these people lack inspiration. These people lack someone to guide them. That's the leadership. So we have a leadership crisis all over the black community. And this is not because the leaders are intentionally doing this, but they have been educated. They have been incapacitated. So we have to sit with humanity, the black people, and say, look, the best way to re-examine ourselves and understand leadership is to go back and study the leadership of our ancestors. That is before we got messed up by this five. You can't even blame the leaders, because 500 years in servitude, you can't recover from that. And I think it's a miracle. Now, before the 500 years, remember, we had the 1,000 years of Arab slavery. You don't learn this, because that is not supposed to be taught. So psychologically, to recover from that, I think black people have pulled off one master stroke. How can you recover from this and you still keep moving? Because already other people were wiped out in the India, among the Native Americans, people Central and South America. A lot of tribes were wiped out. But we're here, man. You talking after what we went through. So if we go back and connect and understand the ways of our ancestors, how our people in ancient Egypt, these were your grandfathers and your grandmothers. And when I see people from the Caribbean, I see people from the US, I see my tribe's people. And I said, this could be my cousin. But we can't have this because education has incapacitated us. We can't think for progress. We think for fighting. We're competing in poverty. That's what we're doing. We're overeducated. I believe we are over miseducated. Because if you look at a white man's education, it's more about, taking advantage of, exploiting, robber. See, the foundation we own of capitalism is what enslaved us. If you read, Chancellor Eric Williams' book, Slavery and Capitalism, we were enslaved by capitalism. We were not enslaved because we were black people, not because of our skin color. No, no, no. It was because the Europeans wanted cheap labor. And actually, not cheap labor they couldn't pay for. So, and they just fight it by our skin tone. So, so the education of the white man was built on the foundation of plunder, gluttony, greed, and robbery. So see, this is his culture when he came after feudalism and he transitioned to capitalism. It became vicious because the white man, when he was in communism, it was like the African. They were staying in a communist setup. But when they got to feudalism, they enslaved themselves. They, if you read about 1600 Britain, it was horror. You see, the things they did to black people, they were already doing it. In 1600 England, they'll get a man drunk, so they could kidnap him and take him over to the overseas plantation and enslave him. See, this is so. If you see, uneducated people are educated best on the culture foundation of their society. This is what they call education. So you see, the Japanese and even the Chinese, even when they are doing business, they go. Even the Indians, they have their names. They never called themselves. I was baptized a white man's name, and I tossed it in the garbage bin because it was not my name. I didn't accept it. No, I can't be called a white man's name. I don't accept that. So you see, the Indian, the Chinese, the Japanese, even when they're competing in the global war, they come as Indians and Chinese, proud. They worship their own gods. They have them. Even when they see the pictures, they see the picture of their God. The God is Krishna. This is very important for inspiring young kids. The same with Japanese. The same with the Chinese. They believe in Taoism. So this is very easy. So when you're starting education, you're starting from that foundation. The culture is where you start to educate. Because we had education before we met white people. We had our own education and it worked for us. So we had to just keep on advancing and improving it. That is good education. So now we're studying in someone else's education, but that someone enslaved us and almost wiped us out because he got so greedy. And we believe that this education is going to advance us and prepare us ahead. And all of us in Africa, in the Caribbean, in Europe, we don't have a mind to sit around and say, but look, this system will not work for us. And white people have seen it. That's why you see poor white people are, when you saw the Black Lives Matter protest, it was not because a lot of white people came along, poor white people. It was not because these white people love, all of a sudden love black people. No, because the system had shoved them on the wall. They are victims of what we went through for 500 years, victims of poverty. So what we look at is our education is not over education, it's over miseducation. We have become the most inferior people. How can inferior people believe in it? I mean, advance. We cannot go anywhere, Messiah. We have to keep in one position of being despised, belittled, because we don't respect. Who respects a man who doesn't respect himself? We're turning into clowns, for God's sake, Messiah. We've been, what are we talking about? When you look at us, Messiah, every day we're stowing behind the white man, and even the leaders, even the respected leaders. I see something changing in the US right now because a lot of them are coming back to Africa. But when they come to Africa, they find the Africans are so brainwashed that they want to be white. A lot of them bleaching. You can't blame them. It's the education they're getting. They go to church and they say Jesus is white. The angels are white. The devil is black. So what do you expect them? These people are going to suffer from inferiority complex, and they're not going to go anywhere. When we get money, we go to Dubai. We go to Australia. We can never go to Africa. We can never go to Sri Lanka. Even the Sri Lankans, I don't think, in South Africa, South Africans don't believe in Africa. Majority of South Africans. It's education, sweetheart. That's it. For students of Pan Africans who might be out there, if you learn the problems facing communities of Black people, one thing you should put in your lessons is the loan scheme and the economics. And I told you because we all subscribe to the Bretton Woods institutes, and these institutes are hooked up to the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is a system that serves white people. Of course, now the poor white people have been rejected again. They have come back to where they belong, in the poverty level where we are. So we're together right now, and they're bitter. The good thing, we're becoming the majority, but the other ones have power. So you see these Bretton Woods institutes and the European leaders, they get our leaders to borrow as much money as they can, because once you borrow a lot of money, you become a hostage of these institutes. There are even some countries which are almost being taken over by the Chinese and the and the Europeans and the IMF and the World Bank. And right now, in the country where I come from, in Uganda, well, the World Bank has banned us because we say we put up a law and we say we don't accept homosexuality. We banned LGBTQ from our country. We say that's not the way of our people. So now the World Bank cannot lend to us. So you see our leaders, they're stuck. They have to do roads, they have to do railways, to do water. Of course, they collect revenue and we steal it. You see, capitalism is about stealing it. You see, the corruption is all over. I see people saying Black people, the biggest thief is a white man. See, corruption, it takes all this money. If you're in capitalism, you have to steal. Nobody's even the church is complicit in robbery. You see, the church, when I steal as a politician, I go and pay my tithe in church, and the church don't ask me where'd you get money from. No, the church is a beneficiary. In the law, in the white man's law, the church is an accessory. So this is capitalism we're in. And I see my worry, Sister Messiah, and the people who are on the panel and the audience, is that we're going nowhere with capitalism. I think humanity is really headed nowhere, because the more we become greedy and self-centered and individualistic like the white man, the more we die out. Because you see communities die out when they become individualistic. A society is built by, families. In the African perspective, the family builds a community, and the community builds an entire nation. So the capitalism is about individualism and greed. Now, when you talk about these governments borrowing, it's the same problem we are facing here in Africa. I'm borrowing every day, I'm borrowing the other day. And when the money comes, it's misused, it's stolen. But as a student of Pan-Africanism, I know there's people that says, we have been independent for the last how many years? African governments and most black nations around 50 to 60 years. These are young nations. The systems are still developing. It's a gradual process. But the biggest mistake we are doing is we are following up the system of people that enslaved us. See the Chinese. Let me show you something here. The Chinese, after they were, brutalized by the British, after getting their independence, they said, whatever it takes, we're not going to follow the white man. They went the opposite way. And the white man now hates the Chinese. Oh, the white man hates the Chinese so much. Because you see, the Chinese has come out to be proud. Same with the Arabs. When you go to the Arabs, they wear their clothes, they speak their languages, they have their names, they love themselves. You see, it's not difficult to build a nation when people are proud. No. But when you have people who are inferior, you see, we're lynched in Libya, we're hanged in Cambodia, we are shot on the street like dogs in the US, in the streets in the US. In Europe, we're looked at like we're supposed to be cleaners. We're just, you see, when a man doesn't respect himself, nobody respects him. So this is very important. Now, I'm glad the picture is there on the screen. Now you see that picture. Look at those. These are my African leaders in Korea. Now look at it. The ones you see, the Arabs you see in that picture, most of them are not leaders. They're just prime ministers. No, they're just ministers. But the Africans, all the presidents are there. Look at them, black in suits. None of the suits is made from their countries. They don't even speak their languages when they're on these platforms. They can never speak their languages. When you see these international conventions, all the rest of the world, everyone speaks their language, save for only one race of the people. One race. One race doesn't have their names. They don't have their gods. They don't speak their languages. These people cannot advance, Messiah. We're not going anywhere. The only step forward for us is to go back and find the ways of our ancestors. We come from great people. These our people. I tell you, Messiah, our people knew astronomy without any gadgets. They knew everything. Our people were the most wise. I'm talking about wisdom. I'm not talking about intelligence. The white man had intelligence. Now, I would rather be wise. I would rather have wisdom over intelligence, because intelligence neighbors greed. See, intelligence is about outsmarting. Our system was about uplifting. We don't outsmart. We uplift one another. Thank you.
Subscribe for more content.